We live. What's up to the family, B1, to the FBA family and all that. It's been a minute, I already know. First of all, I want to say thanks to all the new subscribers. I noticed that. I think my subscriber base like then doubled in the last couple of weeks, which, ain't much, but it's much appreciated though. So as you can see by the title of this, it's real versus fake. I'm just going to get right into it because that's what we're dealing with. We're living in a time where the fake ones make the real ones appear fake, and the real ones or the fake ones are seen as real. Like, it's crazy. So I'm not even gonna mention any names. You already know, because here's what I'm saying is this: like, how long can we continue to allow certain operatives to operate within our community without saying something? Because we have to be the ones, right? We have to be the ones that regulate and police our communities and the message that we get. So this is Liberation Minded Media, New Black Media. So we know, for those of us who are on code, there's a certain standard that we have to keep, which is keeping it real, keeping it 100, speaking on things from our perspective, gatekeeping those who would try to steal the culture, pushing for what's best for our agenda, and weeding out those who are detrimental or going against the grain or who are off code. Because the way these algorithms work on YouTube and social media is there's a signal boosting that goes to messages that go against us. And it's very difficult for those who are speaking a real message to break through the algorithms. I know it's hot, and if I turn on the AC, it's gonna be too noisy, you know. So it's difficult or challenging, I should say. So how do we break through the algorithms? Well, first of all, we have to understand, like, what is it that we need out of media, right? Because if we don't have a voice, then other people will tell our stories. Other people will bury our history. Other people will whitewash our history, or they'll show a narrative to the world that's not accurate and that's detrimental to us. A lot of times when we have got justice within the last few years, understand it's happened because of social media. It's happened because of our own black independent media on a grassroots level. I've said it before, no change really comes from the top. All change comes from the grassroots. And if anybody's out there that's commenting, I'll try to see if I could see the comments. But right now I'm just cooking. What's up to Spiritual Rising? What's up? So the way it works is real change comes from the grassroots. Indeed, free GMJ. And that's another, and we'll get to that in a minute. But all change comes from the grassroots. In other words, the status quo or the powers that be, they don't just change on their own. Why would they? Why would they compromise their own gains to make it equal playing field to those at the bottom? That would be going against their own best interest to do so. So any change has to come from the grassroots. Now, the tricky thing is the grassroots actually outnumber those who are in power. However, the media and the message is controlled by a very few. And these days, when we speak about COINTELPRO, we're actually speaking about our own. See, back in the day, COINTELPRO used to be like FBI agents infiltrating organizations. It used to be like them putting false messages in newspapers. These days, the COINTELPRO is kind of like Willie Lynch, moving automatically through the minds of some of our confused brothers and sisters, and that's just a fact. So we have those out there who really do the job for COINTELPRO. Like J. Edgar Hoover would be proud to see some of our own people operating the way they do. Our ancestors would be rolling in their grave to see some of our people operating the way that they do, calling themselves liberators. So peep game, look, you don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to agree with everybody's message. You don't have to agree with everybody's way of doing things. You don't have to agree with everybody's goals. You don't have to agree with the way everybody prays. You don't have to agree with everybody's political affiliation. That's fine. But when you see operatives attacking those who are actually putting it on the line, sincerely doing what they know, what they think is right, and sincerely building and organizing their community, and the only thing that you can do is be disrespectful about that, but you don't have your own contribution, by default that makes you an agent. So we actually have agents who are operating in that capacity. We actually have agents, right? And you know who I'm talking about, who will watch 9 or 10 of our people get slaughtered in Buffalo. And the only criticism they have is for the black community. No smoke for the boy who did it. No compassion for the victims. But instead, only smoke for the type of organizations that would respond in those type of situations. We had a brother get shot 60 times by the police. 60 times by the police. And this same individual only had smoke for other black people. Think about that. That's counterintelligence. That's exactly what the media who goes against us does. They undermine our deaths, justify the murderers of our people, and just criticize us. They take them to Burger King. They take them alive. Now imagine another community. Imagine the Asian community, the Jewish community, the Latino community, watching their people get slaughtered by a white supremacist and then only have smoke for their own people. You would never see that. So you understand the reason why we're the most attacked is because we're the most powerful, which means we have the most responsibility, which means that we also have the most leverage to control our own destiny. And we do that by supporting the real. We do that by shunning the fake. The same way people got smoked for R. Kelly for what he did, even though it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? He's been operating like that for years. It's the same way we should have the same standard that we should keep for those who call themselves teachers or public figures in our community. There's no way that we should allow people to operate like that within our communities and have some type of fancy title that they gave themselves, but have no works to prove the contributions in their communities, and that have rap sheets a mile long, including sexual crimes. There's no way somebody should be able to put themselves in a position as a teacher or a leader or a moral authority when there's paperwork showing the destruction and detriment that they have been to the community and to their own family, to children and women. That makes us all look bad. So I understand, like I said, the algorithms. I understand that there's people that's behind him, like their audiences are just so dumb or fickle that they allow it to happen. Or they may be agents themselves. And there may be signal boosting going on from white supremacists who like to see that type of slander against our people. But we still have responsibility. Now let me try to get to some of these comments, because one thing I do want to do is start paying more attention to the comments in real time. If I can see how to get these things. Let me see. Live chat. There we go. So Spiritual Rising said, take your time, brother. I know I get excited a little bit. Shalom to Yaya's kids. Let me see what else we got. Oops. Oh no. All right, here we go. Our culture is African culture. Our culture is history. Don't begin or end with the slave trade. That's absolute facts. That was Shabaka. Our history is way more than just slave trade, and that's why we have to look at ourselves. Like if we truly look at ourselves as kings and God, original, and all that, then that means we also have to take responsibility. That means that we also have the power or the ability to assert our power, so we don't look at things as the victim-minded. We have to remember our past, the good and the bad, so we won't make the same mistakes. We remember the good so we understand where we came from and what we could duplicate, but not in a superficial sense. You know what I'm saying? So you could tell, I'm into African culture. I'm into the culture and the greatness of who we are as foundational Black Americans and all that means. But I'm not in it on a superficial level. I'm not just going to regurgitate all the great things that we did just so we could feel good. The only reason why those are reference points is to understand how great we can be now. Because if you think about the things that we have done in distress on this continent, the many brilliant things we have done, imagine what will happen when we're so on code and we have control of our own destiny and we don't have to worry about oppression over us. We'll be able to duplicate everything we did from ancient Egypt to ancient America to global. And that's the potential that we have. But we do have to refine ourselves. That means ourselves individually. And that means that we have to make sure that those who represent us do it right, and that we hold those accountable. You see, the mainstream media, they use different kind of people against us. They use different tokens and black individuals that are put in positions to pretend they represent us when we know they don't. There's different organizations that get support that don't really benefit us or don't really represent us. See, we know the difference between the two, and we make sure that we make a discernment and we draw a clear line between the two. And we have to continue to do that even on a grassroots level. We have to. We have to control our own narrative. What goes around the world about us should come from us, not from those who've been put in position to represent us in a way that's not really accurate. We shouldn't allow people who degrade our culture, who degrade who we are, and who have a past and a present of no contribution to represent us. That's ridiculous. Let me see, before I get out of here, let me see who else is up on here. I really just wanted to talk to y'all a little bit, man, because it's been a minute. I think I got reset. So anyway, yeah, y'all. So I'm gonna be back doing a couple little things, man. The Black KK, they are not us, for real. Call them out. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Taharka Bays in the world, who literally are sex offenders, and his whole clan of sex offenders and COINTELPRO ops. And I'm like this, like if people ain't gonna really support the real, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Like, we should have people that's going on his channel lighting his comment section up to the point where he can't block everybody. We should be calling them out. We should be duplicating these messages. If you make videos on YouTube, if you're a content creator, you should be sharing and creating things to let people know. Make him answer to these things. Because the whole time there's been proof about who and what he is that he's never answered to. And the reason he doesn't feel like he has to answer to it, because he has an audience that is bigger, and he can try to flood out or wash out those of us who are saying real shit. We can't allow that. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. Constructive criticism, I heard somebody say. There's a difference between that and slander. See, constructive criticism is meant to better a person when properly employed or used. But constructive criticism can only come from those who have the experience of doing what they're criticizing others, or constructively criticizing others. You can't give constructive criticism to an NFL football player if you've never played football. So if you've never done any type of social work, you never built with other organizations in your community, how can you be the standard and the go-to and the conscious voice to criticize something you've never done? At that point, it becomes slander and hate. And like we all know, anybody who's done work in the community already knows it's all about building with other organizations. So you should ask yourself about somebody who doesn't have any type of records, any type of resume with building with people in the community. There's no other people in the community that will vouch for this person. No other organizations who will vouch for his character or vouch for his work. Yet any black organization or individual who actually puts in work gets criticized, gets slandered, gets delegitimized. That's an agent. That's exactly what COINTEL was set up to do. So anyway, I'm about to get up out of here, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'll be trying to do a little bit more live and just other videos in the future. I've been out of town on business trips and stuff, y'all. Like, this isn't I don't do this for money. I do this out of the passion. I do this because I know it needs to be done. I do this just to express myself and hopefully to connect with people. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like a job for me. That's why I don't ask for donation. I don't do this for money. I do this because, you know what I'm saying, it's just on my heart. So, and there's nothing wrong with those who have found ways to monetize their message. There's not. But there's a difference between that and doing it for that monetization. Because when you start doing it just for the purpose of being monetized, you have to play to a certain audience and you can't really speak your mind. Or a lot of times, these cats who are doing this, they're not even real about it. You know what I'm saying? They're only doing it for a check. And that controls what they say. What I say is just from the heart. And I'm not shitting on anybody who gets money. I hope you can get money off this YouTube. I ain't hating that at all. But we know the difference between those who are actually paid operatives, who actually do it for, who shit on our people for a YouTube check or for donations from white supremacists, versus those of us who do this because we understand it needs to be done and we want to document our history and our legacy and control our own narrative. Anyway, I'm out, y'all. Liberation Minded Media. Jay Dizzle. I'm out. Peace.